Hello guys, it's Mtobi Sakolo with the grade 11 information technology lesson. There is one student. I will open the chat box. If there are any questions, then you can ask. Okay, let me open the chat box. Okay, just put it on the side. Okay, what will happen now? Okay, just when I put it on the side, it gives me a problem. I will minimize it. Okay, our today's topic is internet technologies. It's a continuation of yesterday's lesson, still the same topic. And then for the subtopic for today, we're going to be talking about types of websites. Okay, yesterday, let me just do a quick recap from what we were doing yesterday. Yesterday, we talked about the internet. That was the introduction of it, the definition of internet, and we're relating also to the www. And then we talked about types of websites. I would say the web, the development of the web from web 1.0, web 2.0, and web 3.0. Okay. Yesterday we put the differences between web 1.0, web 2.0, and web 3.0. So a quick recap of web 1.0, we said it was a website that looks like a library because it is a static website. It doesn't change, the information will remain the same. And the only form of communication we had there was emails only. And another thing about 1.0 is that the users cannot be the creators of content, but the only creator of the content is the webmaster, the creator of that website. And then we went to Web 2.0. Web 2.0, it was starting to be different from Web 1.0 because right now, instead of the pages being static, they are starting to be dynamic, and we have different forms of communication now. That is when Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Mixit, all those forms of communication were developed. And then we went to Web 3.0. Web 3.0 is mostly made of that know you very well. So when you go to the internet, it already know what you want, and the web pages are no longer going to look the same. Each and every person, when they go to their website, we made an example with YouTube, that YouTube, when I open my YouTube based on my digital identity, it will be different from when another person open their YouTube based on the videos that you used to search. If you search about movies, maybe horrors, it will give you suggestions of other horrors. And we talk about Amazon. We remember Amazon in the past, it was based on books. So if you search for a novel, it will give you other suggestions of novels. And then that was it. So today we're going to be focusing mostly on the different types of website that we currently have now. So I will just move my PowerPoint to the next slide where today's content is. Okay. I'll go here. Okay, here we're going to start here. So here we have the definition of a website. A website is when you have a number of chat to each other. So let me, web pages typically served from a single web domain. So here, when we talk about a domain, let me just explain this word domain. A domain would be the name of the website that you use to register it. That when it will be the URL. When somebody is searching for that website, is going to use the URL. And a website is going to need hosting. Hosting is the service that you are going to use to store your web pages in the net, online, in the cloud, so that everyone, when they are looking for it, they are going to search for it. Okay. A website is hosted at least one web server, accessible via a network such as internet through an internet address, and known as the Uniform Resource Locator. So that is the definition of a URL. It's a Uniform Resource Locator because it is going to be unique for every website there is. So that is the domain. Every domain is unique. All public accessible websites collectively constitute the World Wide Web. So each and every website that you need is going to start with the www. And then a web page, now we're coming to a web page. A web page is a document typically written in plain text, interspersed with formatting instruction of hypertext markup language. That is HTML, the language that we use to create websites. Currently, there are a lot of languages that are involved when we create a website, but the most famous one and the one that is mostly used is HTML. And then web pages are accessed and transported with the hypertext transfer protocol, which is HTTP. But when it comes to HTTPs, now it means that your website is secured. If you can look at every website, it has that. Not every website, let me correct that. Most of the website of which they are secured, they have that green lock there. If you see that green lock, it means that it is secured now. But if it only has HTTP, that website is not secured. But as soon as there is this additional S here, it means that your website is secured. Okay, let me go to the next slide. So now, if you can remember very well, when we talk about Web 1.0, it was only made of static websites. So right now, we're going to the pages, the content that is there in the pages will remain the same. And it will show the same thing to every user that uses them, regardless of their browsing history, of their semantic searching. It doesn't concede semantic searching. it will just give you the same information. There are many static websites in the internet. You won't be able to tell immediately if it is static, but the chances are, if the site looks basic and is for a small company and simply deliver information without any. So what they really mean here is that some websites you cannot tell if they are static, but if it is just for a small business, it just displays the information about that business. When they talk about bells and whistles, maybe like right now, when we talk about dynamic websites, let me make an example of a news website. It is continuously changing. It will give you different news every time. Let me make an example about TMZ. It will give you notifications. Sometimes when you open other websites, browser, which will ask you if do you want to hear notifications for this from this website, and then you will have to choose yes or no. That is an example of a design and even videos. So it doesn't really mean that a static website will have only pictures. It can include multimedia here. When they say multimedia, we're also including pictures, it doesn't mean that it should only be plain text. Multimedia files are normally downloaded and are not streamed. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So here we are going to be looking at advantages and disadvantages of a static website. Firstly, a static website is quick to develop. Secondly, it is cheap to develop because you are not going to be putting a lot of things there. And then cheap to host. You don't need big space to host it because everything that you do, your web pages should be stored in the cloud. When you buy hosting and when you buy a domain, all those things should be on the cloud. Doesn't use much processing power. It is not going to use too much processing power because it is just static. It will remain the same like that. It doesn't contain too much content or a lot of things. It doesn't have any form of interactions like the websites that we have now. And these websites are not regularly updated. So in most cases, you are not going to need a website developer. The information that is there is always going to remain the same. That's why it is not going to be always updated. And then disadvantages: requires web development expertise to update the site. So it might be expensive to update because you are going to need someone who is an expert in web development. Site not as useful for the user. So that's what they are saying here. It is not much as useful for the user because you only need the content that is there. Content can get stagnant, so it will remain the same every time. Okay, right now we're coming to dynamic websites. Dynamic website. So right now it means like we're talking about Web 2.0. So when we talk about static website, it's like we're including Web 1.0 because all the websites they were made of were static. But then now when we come to dynamic websites, we're coming to Web 2.0 and Web 3.0, whereby the content of the website is bound to change anytime. Okay, a dynamic website is one that changes or customizes itself frequently and automatically. So this website will be designed to update or change its information frequently, and it will do it automatically. A dynamic website consists of pages created in such a way that they are generated in real time. Such websites may differ each time depending on the users and their saved preferences and setting. So here, on this point now, we're talking about digital identity. That is where exactly the point is going. Remember, digital identity, when we're talking about digital identity, let me say maybe for example, you have a Gmail account. So automatically when you open Chrome and you log into your Gmail account, or maybe when you log into YouTube, already the login details that you have used there are already stored. Your browsing history is already stored. And even when it can go to Google Plus or any online documents that you are going to use, it is going to use the same identity that you have already stored there. That is your digital identity, your search, your everything that you do on the website. So everything that will be given to you by the search engines, it is related to what you usually do when you get to the website. And it will be considering your digital identity. Dynamic sites can be more expensive to develop initially, but advantages are numerous. So this is actually a disadvantage because it will be expensive to develop. Then let's at a basic level, a dynamic website can give the website owner the ability to simply update and add new content to the site. For example, news and events could be posted to the site through a simple browser interface. So this one is far much better than the static website, whereby you are going to need a professional web developer to update the site. Whereas here you can do it yourself. Dynamic features of a site are only limited by imagination. Some examples of dynamic website features could be content management system, e-commerce system, bulletin or discussion boards. So here, maybe when we talk about e-commerce systems, we're talking about the features that are used in business websites. Maybe when, just like, let me make an example with Amazon, Wish. It's an example of an e-commerce website. What else? Take a lot. And then here, bulletin or discussion board. It can be blogging. When people are blogging, maybe they are going to have a discussion there on that blog and have a discussion. Ability for clients or users to update documents. For example, like on most social sites, you are going to be able to update your profile pictures, your status, your everything. Ability for administrators or users to create content or add information to a site. So here to update the website, that is the difference between a dynamic and a static website. A static website, in order for you to update the website, you are going to need a professional web developer. But here, the users, the administrators can be able to update the website anytime they want to. You don't need a professional web developer. Okay, even here, still explaining a dynamic website. Developers generally create static pages with HTML, but use language like PHP, JavaScript, or ActionScript to create dynamic pages. So mostly our website are going to include PHP, JavaScript. Those things create, JavaScript can create a lot of things, maybe dialog box, login details, a lot of things that will make the website to be interactive. Right now, the person is unlike static. The person can interact with the website. The URL of a dynamic page usually contains many parameters after the file name. These parameters include the information that the software or the server needs to dynamically create the page. So here, just like for example, let me say when you log in with your Facebook, you are going to be using the same Facebook, but you are going to have different accounts. When you open there will be a lot. When you open yours, there will be a lot of number of characters after the URL, which means that this site has dynamically created a user, a different user, a page. So those parameters or those characters that will be there, they will be describing who is using the website now. Okay, the other page of Facebook is an example of a dynamic website where the way pages are displayed differs from person to person. It's just what I've been explaining right now. This is because the website is not exactly as it was created, not as it was static, but differs for each user. Your profile will be different from another user's profile. The content that you post. So right now you as a user, you are updating the website. It won't remain with the same information, whereas it will happen with this one, a static one. With dynamic pages, the content displayed in different ways depending on the settings stored in the user's profile. So right now, your profile control the way the website will appear. Supporting files and data and database with the user's information is normally stored on the web server. So everything, like if you have stored things in your email or your Facebook, they are not going to be stored in your hard drive or any form of storage, but they are going to be in the cloud, in the web servers. So now we're going to be talking about interactive websites. Interactivity on a website can take many forms. The following are the most common. So we've got Flash applets. These are applications that are usually made by Adobe. Sometimes, usually, especially on Windows 7, sometimes when you want to play a video from another website, it won't allow until you have a Flash player, because it will need this interactivity. And then we've got JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language used to create small script programs that runs on the customer's device. So these JavaScript are small scripts that are going to make your website to be interactive with the person. Sometimes you will find that the website is up to date with time. You can be able to personally customize the website. You can be able to do a lot of things. Those are Flash applets and JavaScripts that are making the website to be really interactive. It is important to understand that interactive websites are not necessarily dynamic. It is the flash of JavaScript within the browser that customize what you see by utilizing content already downloaded from the server. So what they are saying here, interactive websites are not necessarily dynamic. Maybe just like, for example, maybe you may get a website that use a Flash applet, but it is not really, it doesn't mean that it is dynamic. Only when the interactive element on a web page has an influence on the parameters sent to the server when you click on the link does it add to creating the page dynamically. So like here we were talking about Facebook. In Facebook, when you do something, or maybe when you upload a picture or you upload your status or you share something, you are automatically changing the look of the page. That's what makes it to be dynamic. It is not going to stay the same after you have done that type of action that you should have done. So it won't be the same, it will change. Okay, here we're going to be looking at advantages and disadvantages of a dynamic website. Much more functional websites. Okay, I think I have a chat here. Let me check the chat box. I don't see anything. I only see 2 dots. Is there any question, or should I be slower? Am I fast? Okay. If there is a question, feel free to ask. I will explain. All right, let me continue. I will look at the advantages and the disadvantages now. Much more functional websites created like the social web. Most of them are looking like the social website. When we look at Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, those are examples of the social websites talking about that they are always going to change every time, and the power of changing the page is in the user. Beside having a knowledgeable web designer or web developer, they will change based on the user activities that they perform there. Much easier to update. It is much easier to update. New content brings people back to the site, which provides a more comprehensive interactive experience. So every time a person put a status or put a picture or share something, you will wanna go back there and look at what people are posting, like them, and interact with those things. Perfect for online stores. Yes, it is perfect for online stores because when you have an online store, you are always going to be changing the content, putting new products, and all of those stuffs. Can work as a system to allow staff or users to collaborate. So the staff and the users can also communicate. Maybe they have a concern about some sort of a product, or they are always going to be talking on that website. And then disadvantages: higher skill level required and more expensive to develop. So these types of websites, they need higher skilled level people to develop them, to be able to make the users also to interact in the website. It requires a lot of things. We are going to use languages like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, Flash flares like Adobe. You are going to need all of those things. Uses high-end processors. So these websites demand a lot of processing power. So if you are busy on Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or YouTube, obviously your battery is going to be finished fast because it needs higher end processing. Hosting costs a little more. So now when it comes to hosting, when you look at things like Facebook, people, Twitter or Pinterest, people are going to post videos, are going to post pictures, and those things, remember, they don't stay on your storage, on your computer storage, but they are going to stay in the cloud where the website is hosted. So that's why it will demand a lot of space. That's why it will be more expensive than the dynamic website. Okay, those were the disadvantages of a dynamic website. Okay, let me go to the next slide. Or are my slides finished here? Was this the last one? Okay, let me double check. Okay, so yeah, it was no, they were not finished. Still have 2 more slides here. Okay, so let me check here what happened. Still have a couple of slides here. Okay. So right now we're going to look at location-based services. Location-based services, LBS, sometimes this abbreviation, they use it for location-based services, are a general class of computer program level service that use location data to control features. So especially, okay, the first thing we're going to look at is maps and navigation. Maps and navigation are they in cars, they in phones, TomTom, a lot of those things. Also, those are LBS, location-based services. And then we've got tracking services, the ones that they use to track cars, traffic, friends and family finder, all of those things still fall under LBS. Okay, information services. When we look at yellow pages, in the past there were those big books there where you can look direction of places, numbers of places, city guides, user generated content, all of those things. And then we've got application. When we talk about application now, we're including social networking, context, advertising. We'll go to the next one. Let me make my slide a bit wider. Okay. Okay, here is the definition of location-based services, which uses location coordinates at the end user to improve the relevancy, context, and value of the applications are defined as location-based services. Even other examples that we have now, it's Uber, Taxify, all of those things. They are using this type of a service. Location-based services is an information service and has a number of uses in social networking today as an entertainment service, which is accessible with mobile devices through the mobile network and which uses information on the graphical position of the mobile device. So it will be focusing on the when they talk about the graphical position, they are looking at it geographically. So it can be able to locate where you are. Most of them, they are using the IP address. That's why most people tend to use applications like VPN when they want to hide their location. This has become more and more important with expansion of the smartphones and tablet market. Okay, these are example of location-based services. Okay, firstly, we have restaurants or retail stores. 10K. Another one, we've got gym for location-based mobile advertising. Assets in containing where GPS would not work. So all of these Venus, Gem, restaurant are example of location-based services. So now we're going to look at internet site accessibility to mobile devices. When you look back then, it was when we're using by the times of Mixit, some websites were too difficult to be viewed through a phone because maybe it was made for a computer. The shift to mobile web access has been accelerated with the rise since 2007 of larger multi-touch smartphones and of multi-touch tablets, computers since 2010. So here they are talking about the period whereby it was very difficult to use phones to access website, and then they had to come with a plan so that because the previous phones were having smaller screens. So even here, what have been used the most is JavaScript and all those things, CSS, PHP, those languages, those high level programming languages. Both perform provides better internet access screens and mobile browsers or application-based user webs experience that previous generation of mobile device have done. Okay, so here we are looking at the things that make nowadays phones to be more accessible to sites that we have these days. Okay, we'll look at size, the browsers, devices, the types of devices that we have. So all of those things. So our today's topic was basically a continuation of yesterday's topic, because yesterday we were talking about we were talking about the types of webs that were when the technologies were busy emerging. So even tomorrow, we're still going to continue on our next lesson. We're still going to continue based on this information and build more and more and more on it. So right now, what you have learned today is that you have learned to differentiate between a static website and a dynamic website. And right now you can tell on the imaging of technologies when we were having Web 1.0 and when we were having 2.0 and 3.0. Now you can be able to categorize these things according to whether they are dynamic or static. Are they interactive, and what interactions can they make? So right now we've got full information to briefly describe this. So do we have any question or everything is clear? Okay. Okay, since we don't have any questions, then that will be the end of our today's lesson, guys. Hope to see you tomorrow again. Okay, bye.